Hey everyone! Welcome to Anime Dreams. Today, we're diving into another thrilling installment of our fanfiction series. What if Naruko mastered the Snake's Age mode? Part 5. Disclaimer: this content is purely for entertainment and discussion purposes. I do not own any of the anime footage used in this video. All rights and credits belong to their respective creators and copyright holders. Now, without further ado, let's jump right in. Having just witnessed the impressive display put on by Sasuke Uchiha, Ino found herself lost in thought, reflecting on how far she had come. I'm not like Sasuke or Naruko. They are so much further ahead than me. Have I truly progressed since becoming a ninja? Sakura Haruno vs Ino Yamanaka. The announcer's voice pulled her from her thoughts. Her head snapped up, and she immediately locked eyes with her former best friend. In that moment, they understood each other without words. They both knew how much this match meant. With unwavering determination, Ino reminded herself that she couldn't afford to lose. As the heir to the Yamanaka clan, she carried the weight of her family's reputation. Her father had high expectations, but more than that, she had high expectations for herself. Losing to Sakura would mean that despite her lineage and access to training resources, her former friend had surpassed her through sheer effort and dedication. A pang of guilt settled in her chest as she acknowledged how little she had truly trained since joining the academy, spending much of her time distracted by other interests. I need to be better. Sakura's determined green eyes met her own, and in that instant, Ino steeled herself. She would not lose. Begin. Naruko observed the battle from the stands, her arms crossed as she considered the match's unexpected outcome. She had anticipated a draw, given how evenly matched they were. That was surprising. I expected it to end differently. They were slower than I thought. Do they even train seriously? Her gaze shifted to Ino, who was adjusting her hair as she composed herself. Though her legs wobbled slightly, she managed to climb the stairs back to her team with grace. Meanwhile, adrenaline surged through Ino's body. Despite her exhaustion, an overwhelming sense of accomplishment filled her. I did it. I won. I actually defeated Sakura. As she glanced toward Sasuke, hoping for even a flicker of recognition, she was met with disappointment. He was absent-mindedly staring at a wall. She sighed but quickly shook it off. Instead, she caught sight of Naruko looking in her direction. At least someone noticed the amazing Ino Yamanaka. A smile crept onto her lips as she turned to her teammates, who welcomed her with cheers and congratulations. This feeling. I want more of this. The feeling of making people proud of me. The next match will be between Neji Hyuga and Choji Akimichi. Will both competitors please come down to the arena? The proctor, Hayate, announced. Let the match between Choji Akimichi and Neji Hyuga begin. Hayate declared before stepping back to allow the two young ninja to face off. Most spectators, including Asuma-sensei, already had a strong sense of how the match would go. Neji's skill and precision gave him a clear advantage. However, Choji remained blissfully unaware of the overwhelming odds. His usual optimism shone through as he imagined the delicious meal Asuma-sensei would treat him to afterward. That was until Neji spoke, his tone calm but unwavering. It is inevitable that you will lose. Just as it is inevitable that people will underestimate you. Choji's expression hardened. I won't lose so easily. He declared, forming a hand seal familiar to all members of the Akimichi clan. Akimichi clan's secret jutsu, human bullet tank. He called out, transforming into a spinning sphere and launching himself toward Neji with impressive speed. Neji activated his Byakugan, carefully analyzing the situation. Striking Choji's chakra points while he was in motion would be difficult. However, Choji, fueled by determination, miscalculated his trajectory and crashed into a wall. Neji seized the opportunity, swiftly targeting key chakra points to disrupt the flow of energy in Choji's body. Though outwardly Choji seemed fine, the effects were immediate. His energy depleted, his body struggled to keep up, and the match was quickly called in Neji's favor. Choji was carefully assisted off the battlefield, receiving medical attention. The next match was about to begin. Having just witnessed Hinata emerge victorious against her opponent Misumi, Guy was visibly excited by the intensity of the matches. Yosh, Kakashi, my eternal rival. Fate has determined that our students will face each other in battle, and I propose a wager. Guy exclaimed with his usual enthusiasm, always eager to challenge his longtime competitor. Although Kakashi was typically calm and unbothered by most things, his rivalry with Guy was one of the few exceptions. He wouldn't openly admit it, but Guy's competitive nature had a way of pulling him in. Without even glancing away from his book, he responded, "What are the terms, Guy?" His tone was casual, though there was an unmistakable hint of interest. Since this marked the first true test of the second generation of their rivalry, Guy felt that the stakes had to match the significance of the occasion. With his usual dramatic flair, he proudly announced, "Kakashi, my rival, if I win, you must stop reading Icha Icha and remove your mask for an entire year." A stunned silence filled the room. The mere thought of Kakashi without his ever-present mask or his favorite book was enough to leave the onlookers speechless. Even the older shinobi from allied villages couldn't help but react with wide eyes. The gravity of the challenge was undeniable. Both Sarutobi men, Asuma and Hiruzen, couldn't suppress their laughter, finding Guy's bold wager almost unbelievable. To them, this was as significant as some of Konoha's most pivotal moments. Meanwhile, Kurenai and Anko exchanged knowing glances, both secretly thrilled at the idea of Kakashi finally setting aside that book. And, of course, the mystery of what lay behind his mask intrigued every woman in the village. Kakashi, however, remained composed as he weighed the situation. Guy must be confident in Tenten's abilities, she was the top kunoichi of her class, and he's had over a year to train her. On the other hand, he likely underestimates Naruko, assuming she's still the lowest-ranked student. What he doesn't realize is that Naruko is already at a Chunin level skill. Even if things get tough, she has the Kyuubi's chakra as a last resort. With that in mind, Kakashi decided to accept the wager. "Very well. But if you lose, you have to refrain from mentioning youth in any form and stop wearing that green jumpsuit for an entire year," he countered, his tone as casual as ever. If Guy's terms had shocked the spectators, Kakashi's counter-wager left them utterly speechless. Asuma nearly dropped his cigarette, and Hiruzen's pipe nearly fell from his lips. For Rock Lee, Guy's most devoted student, the very thought of his mentor abandoning his signature outfit and philosophy was nothing short of unthinkable. It was almost as if the foundation of his world had been shaken. Meanwhile, Anko and Kurenai were barely holding back their amusement. They both knew Guy's fashion sense was unique, and the idea of him wearing anything other than his green jumpsuit was a victory in itself. With the stakes set, Kakashi turned his attention to Naruko, who was preparing to face Tenten. Channeling chakra to amplify his voice, he spoke directly to his student. "Naruko, if you win this match, I'll use my influence as a former Anbu captain and a potential Hokage candidate to ensure you get more missions to Kusagakure. That way, you'll have the opportunity to see someone important to you." His tone was casual, but the message was clear. "However, if you lose, I can guarantee you'll never be assigned a mission to the Land of Grass again." Naruko's determined expression hardened as she nodded in understanding. "Kakashi-sensei, how decisive do you want this victory to be? Should I simply secure the win, or would you prefer a more thorough demonstration?" Naruko asked with confidence. Kakashi chuckled at her boldness. "Just make it clear that I'm the better sensei, all right?" he replied. Tenten, who had been listening to their exchange, clenched her fists in frustration. She was being completely overlooked. That little upstart thinks she can beat me? I was top of my class. There's no way she's stronger than me. The proctor, Hayate, stepped forward and raised his hand. "Let the match between Naruko Uzumaki and Tenten Higurashi begin." The moment the fight was declared open, Tenten immediately launched a barrage of shuriken at Naruko. As the battle progressed, she increased the intensity, sending an array of kunai, throwing stars, and other weapons at her opponent. Yet, to her disbelief, Naruko wasn't fazed. She dodged every single attack with minimal effort, sidestepping, ducking, and weaving through the storm of projectiles as if it were a simple training drill. At one point, she even started doing push-ups and jumping jacks between movements, all while maintaining an expression of complete indifference. Tenten's frustration grew. She's not even taking me seriously. The match had only just begun, but one thing was already clear: this wasn't going to be the easy win that Tenten had expected. Naruko versus Tenten, a battle of skill. Holding the summoning scrolls tightly in her hands, Tenten launched herself into the air, preparing to unleash her strongest technique against Naruko, one that would leave no room for evasion. With a determined expression, she unfurled the scrolls and called out, "Twin Rising Dragons." Instantly, a whirlwind of weapons emerged as she grabbed and hurled them toward the blonde kunoichi at an incredible speed. With Guy, ever the enthusiastic mentor, Might Guy couldn't resist offering commentary in his signature dramatic fashion. Despite Naruko-kun's remarkable agility, there is no way she can evade the dynamic attack of Tenten-chan. Her youthful energy will surely surpass Naruko's carefree and unconventional style, Guy declared confidently. The spectators, including Orochimaru and the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, watched intently, many believing Naruko was in a difficult position with no apparent way to avoid the incoming barrage. However, one person remained unfazed, Kakashi Hatake. He knew exactly what Naruko was capable of and understood that dodging was unnecessary. Choosing to remain silent, he simply observed, knowing that Guy's confidence would only make the final outcome even more amusing. For once, he even set his book aside, activating his Sharingan to capture every moment of his rival's reaction. The realization on Guy's face when Naruko turned the tide of the battle was something Kakashi wanted to remember forever. With Naruko recognizing that her opponent was now in a vulnerable position mid-air, unable to change direction, Naruko quickly formulated a strategy to end the match. Without hesitation, she formed the necessary hand seals and pressed her palms together, calling out, "Wind release, great breakthrough." A powerful gust of wind erupted from her position, surging forward with immense force. The sheer strength of the technique sent all of Tenten's weapons hurtling back toward her at an even greater velocity than before. With Kakashi, now thoroughly entertained, watched as Guy's expression transformed from smug confidence to sheer disbelief. His Sharingan recorded every second of the shift in emotions, the realization that Naruko's wind-based technique was the perfect counter to Tenten's arsenal. The moment Guy grasped what was happening, Kakashi couldn't have been more amused. No amount of money could have bought such a satisfying reaction. With Tenten's eyes widened as she saw her own weapons returning toward her, faster than she had thrown them. With little time to react, she quickly shielded her vital areas, bracing for impact. Despite her best efforts, she sustained multiple cuts along her legs and arms. One particularly sharp weapon tore the fabric of her left pant leg from the knee down, while others left scratches on her thighs and forearms. And just when she thought things couldn't get any more difficult, Naruko seized the opportunity to finish the match. Using chakra to propel herself into the air, the blonde kunoichi swiftly formed another set of hand seals, preparing her most powerful technique. As she closed the distance between them, now only a meter away, Naruko inhaled deeply and unleashed her attack. Wind release, drilling air bullet. A concentrated blast of compressed air shot toward Tenten with precision. The force of the attack struck her ankle, causing a sharp sting of pain as she was sent hurtling backward. Unable to maintain balance, she collided with the wall and lost consciousness upon impact. With Hayate, Proctor Hayate Gecko gave a slight smirk, aware of what this outcome meant for Guy. "The winner of this match is Naruko Uzumaki," he announced, prompting a round of applause from the spectators. The gathered Jonin, except for Orochimaru in disguise and the dismayed Might Guy, were visibly impressed by Naruko's skillful performance. Despite witnessing his student's defeat, Guy's primary concern now rested on something else entirely: the bet he had just lost. Stunned into silence, he remained completely motionless until Kakashi spoke up. "So, Guy, that was the spirit of youth, wasn't it?" Kakashi remarked, his tone filled with amusement. So inspiring, it almost makes you want to wear green spandex all the time, doesn't it? For a long moment, Guy didn't respond. Then, with dramatic flair, he dropped to the ground in a theatrical faint, exclaiming one last phrase before losing consciousness. "Curse you, Kakashi, and your effortlessly cool attitude. This is unbearable." Everyone in the group was completely astonished. They had never expected Naruko to perform at such an impressive level. Just 6 months ago, she had struggled with even the most basic transformation jutsu, yet now she was executing B-ranked elemental techniques with ease. How had she progressed so rapidly in such a short amount of time? The one contemplating this mystery the most was Shikamaru. Coming from a clan renowned for producing brilliant strategists, he prided himself on solving puzzles effortlessly. However, piecing together the drastic improvement in Naruko's shinobi abilities was proving to be quite the challenge. Is Kakashi-sensei really that exceptional of a teacher? Shikamaru pondered. Could he truly take someone who was considered the lowest in the class and help them reach a level where they could rival Kiba and Sasuke? He recalled Asuma-sensei mentioning Kakashi's remarkable skills, but seeing this level of progress in Naruko within such a short period was almost unbelievable. Ugh, this is so troublesome. Kiba was also struggling to process what he had witnessed. How did the class underdog improve so drastically? He remembered Naruko struggling in the academy. She had taken over 3 years to master basic techniques like transformation and substitution. And yet, here she was, effortlessly performing advanced jutsu. Could Kakashi-sensei, the same person Mom once hoped would be my teacher, really be that skilled? Despite his skepticism, Kiba eventually dismissed the thought, convincing himself that it must have been a fluke rather than something worth overanalyzing. Not only were the Rookie 9 captivated by Naruko's sudden surge in skill, but even the Jonin instructors from her graduating class took notice. Asuma was genuinely impressed with how well Naruko controlled her wind element. Kurenai, on the other hand, felt a sense of unease. How could Naruko change so drastically in such a short amount of time? What had caused this transformation? And how much further would she evolve? Minutes later, the match between Kankuro Subaku and Kiba Inuzuka commenced. Kiba, the Inuzuka clan heir, initiated the battle by throwing a smoke bomb at Kankuro's feet, filling the area with thick smoke. With Akamaru by his side, the duo launched a synchronized assault on the mysterious ninja carrying strange wrappings on his back. Emerging from the smoke, Kankuro quickly realized that Akamaru had latched onto his arm with a firm bite. Fortunately for him, it was not his actual arm but his puppet, which prevented any real injury. Using chakra threads attached to his puppet, he swiftly shifted its hands, catching Akamaru in a trap hold. A hidden compartment in the puppet's hand opened, revealing a sharp blade coated in a dangerous-looking poison. Akamaru let out a worried whimper, instinctively sensing the danger. "You might want to surrender," Kankuro said coolly. "Otherwise, your partner here could be in serious trouble." Kiba growled in frustration, frantically searching for a way to free Akamaru from this predicament. Then, an idea struck him, one that involved a soldier pill. Without hesitation, he flicked a soldier pill toward Akamaru, who swallowed it immediately. Within moments, Akamaru's fur changed from white to a vibrant red, his energy surging. Normally, against an opponent made of flesh, this boost would have been enough for Akamaru to break free. However, since he was restrained by a puppet crafted from durable materials, he was unable to escape. Even so, the unexpected surge of energy forced Kankuro to abandon the wrappings he had been concealing himself in. In that instant, the realization hit the spectators: the real Kankuro was not directly engaging in combat but was instead controlling a puppet disguised as himself. As the puppet's outer layer chipped away, revealing its wooden structure beneath, the truth became clear: Kankuro was a puppet master. Realizing he had narrowly avoided a tougher fight, Kankuro made a swift decision: he wouldn't take any more risks. To secure victory quickly, he decided to target Akamaru, believing that eliminating Kiba's trusted companion would make the rest of the battle far easier. Panic shot through Kiba as he saw the poisoned blade aimed at Akamaru. His mind raced with possibilities, but no matter how he looked at it, he couldn't find a way to protect his partner in time. Akamaru! Kiba called out desperately. He couldn't bear the thought of losing his closest companion. Clenching his fists, he made a decision. Wait. I'll forfeit, just let Akamaru go. Kankuro paused, considering Kiba's offer. With a small nod, he signaled his agreement and withdrew the puppet's blade. Kiba let out a relieved sigh. He couldn't imagine what he would do without Akamaru by his side. Turning toward the proctor, Kiba spoke with reluctance. All right. I surrender. With that, the match was officially over, and Kiba immediately moved to retrieve Akamaru, grateful that his best friend was safe. A fair match in the road to Chunin. Now, hand over Akamaru, Kiba demanded, his voice firm. Though he disliked conceding, he knew it was the right choice. If given another opportunity, he would make the same decision again. Kankuro, still frustrated over his sister's earlier defeat, saw this as a chance to reclaim some pride for Sunagakure. Smirking, he responded with a tone that left little doubt about his intentions. I don't think so. Didn't they ever teach you that deception is a fundamental skill for a shinobi? He remarked, his words carrying a hint of mockery. His puppet held onto Akamaru, who struggled to break free. With a slight movement of his fingers and a controlled flow of chakra, a concealed blade emerged from the puppet, moving deliberately slowly. Kankuro intended to toy with Kiba's emotions, but before the blade could touch Akamaru's fur, it was intercepted by another weapon. A sword blocked the strike, held firmly by the match's proctor. The winner of this match is Kankuro Sabaku, as his opponent has forfeited. There is no need for unnecessary harm, Hayate stated calmly. He channeled chakra into his sword, pushing the puppet back and breaking its hold on Akamaru. Your match is over. I suggest you return to your sensei, he instructed. Kankuro, realizing it would be unwise to escalate the situation further, complied and rejoined his teammates. Both Baki and Tamari congratulated him on his performance, though Baki noted that revealing himself as a puppeteer so soon might not have been ideal. The upcoming matches. With the preliminary battles concluded, the matchups for the final tournament were revealed. Naruko Uzumaki vs Shikamaru Nara. Shino Aburame vs Kankuro Sabaku. Neji Hyuga vs Hinata Hyuga. Ino Yamanaka vs Tamari Sabaku. Sasuke Uchiha vs Gaara Sabaku. The final stage of the exams would take place in 1 month, allowing the participants time to prepare. Now, you are free to rest or begin strategizing as you see fit, the third Hokage announced to the exhausted Junon. Unless any of you have questions, you are dismissed. Shikamaru, ever the thinker, raised a hand. Since this is a tournament, does that mean there will only be one winner? And if so, does that mean only one person can become a Chunin? His tone suggested he was already debating whether the effort was worth it. Hiruzen smiled slightly, understanding the logic behind the question. Not necessarily. There will be multiple judges, including myself, the Kazekage, and various officials from different lands. The decision isn't based solely on who wins. Even if you lose in the first round, you can still be promoted if you demonstrate the qualities expected of a Chunin. Winning simply gives you more opportunities to showcase those abilities, along with the prize money that comes with victory. Naruko, her golden hair catching the light, suddenly perked up. So that means there's a chance for all of us to become Chunin? She asked, her expression bright with excitement. Hiruzen nodded. Yes, but there is also the possibility that none of you will be promoted. It depends on your performance, not just your results. His tone turned serious, making the Junon take his words to heart. With that, the Hokage gave them a final nod. You've all done well. Your efforts have made your village proud. You are dismissed until the finals in a month. And with that, he vanished. Naruko considered staying with her teammates, but with Kakashi busy watching over Sasuke, who needed a checkup after the events in the forest, she decided against it. Instead, she began thinking about how she would use the next month to train. The road to Chunin was far from over, and she intended to give it everything she had. Fueled by the excitement of victory, Ino was riding a wave of confidence. She loved the thrill of winning, but now she had to face Temari. If she had taken a moment to reflect, she would have realized that she was accustomed to receiving praise. As the heir of the prestigious Yamanaka clan and someone who often caught the attention of others, she had grown used to validation. The thought of people recognizing her skills and admiring her only fueled her ambition further. However, Temari was a whole new challenge. Ino had seen firsthand the sheer power the San Kunoichi wielded. Her wind-based attacks were incredibly strong. If Ino wanted to keep this feeling of accomplishment alive, she had to push herself harder than ever before. The toughest part of all this was that no one seemed to believe in her abilities. Shikamaru had outright suggested she forfeit, and Asuma-sensei's expression practically screamed that he agreed. Sure, she knew she hadn't been as dedicated in her training as she could have been, but that was about to change. She was Ino Yamanaka, the heir to a renowned clan known for its unparalleled mind techniques. Standing on that stage, in front of thousands of spectators, she was determined to make her family proud. Naruko! Wait up! Ino called out, hurrying after her fellow blonde. If she wanted to improve, who better to ask than the one person she had seen grow by leaps and bounds? Turning around, Naruko was met with the sight of Ino Yamanaka hurrying toward her. They were standing atop the roof of an ordinary building in the village. What could Ino want with me? It was really impressive watching you in the forest. You've improved so much over the past 5 months, Ino remarked, offering a compliment without much thought. Naruko tried to hide the warmth rising to her cheeks, but it was impossible. She wasn't used to receiving praise. For years, she had longed for even the smallest bit of recognition from Sakura but had only ever been brushed aside. Why does just one compliment make me flustered? Perhaps because she had never really experienced them before. Thanks. What did you need? Naruko asked, steering the conversation away from Ino's own performance. The Yamanaka had won her match, though it hadn't been particularly flashy. Still, Naruko hadn't expected her to cut her hair so drastically, and her ability to control chakra while managing multiple jutsu was certainly commendable. Actually, on second thought, she did pretty well. I wanted to know how you've gotten so much stronger recently. I've decided to take my training more seriously. I want to become a powerful ninja like you, Ino admitted. Once again, Naruko found herself blushing. Compliments about her abilities were even rarer than those about her as a person. Receiving two in such a short time was overwhelming. The key is to train hard, push yourself past your limits and then keep going. Work on a variety of skills to minimize your weaknesses, but also develop a specialty that can carry you to Chunin level. Ino stepped closer until only a small gap remained between them. Naruko wasn't used to standing this close to anyone, especially not a girl who wasn't Sakura. We should train together sometime. I help you, you help me, Ino suggested with a playful smirk. Unlike Sasuke Uchiha, who was indifferent to her charms, Naruko was visibly affected. The flustered look, the slight stammer, and the speechless reaction were all there. Ino couldn't help but feel a little proud. That's right, I know I've got charm. Sure. Naruko replied, still trying to process what was happening. She had spent years yearning for attention, but now that she was receiving it, she had no idea how to respond. Thank you, Naruko. This is really going to help me. Ino giggled, stepping closer to place a quick kiss on her cheek before pulling away. Naruko stood frozen, her mind racing. She had seen how dedicated Naruko was to training, and she was determined to learn more about her. A strange sensation coursed through Naruko's body, a mixture of excitement and nervousness. That moment with Ino would stay in her mind for the rest of the night. XXX. After what felt like an eternity, Naruko finally made it back to her apartment and collapsed onto her bed, overwhelmed with excitement. I get to join the Snake Clan. I actually get to be part of the Snake Clan. The thought sent a thrill through her. She had dedicated the past 5 months to pushing herself beyond her limits, training relentlessly to become a worthy representative for them. Good afternoon, Naruko-kun, a familiar voice hissed. It was Shakudo, the female serpent she had met before. Unlike their first encounter, Naruko no longer felt any fear. Instead, she was filled with anticipation. This was her chance to finally belong somewhere, to be part of a family. They weren't human, but that didn't matter. They had accepted her, and she was determined to make them proud. "Good afternoon, Shakudo," she greeted in return. The serpent slithered toward her, coiling around her gently. "Close your eyes," she instructed. "I am going to perform a technique that will allow you to train in complete solitude for the next month." Obediently, Naruko did as she was told. The last words spoken in the room before everything faded were Sealing Arts, Reverse Summoning Jutsu. Opening her eyes as soon as she received the all-clear from Shakudo, Naruko took in her surroundings with amazement. She wasn't sure what to expect, but this place was incredible. "Naruko, this is Mount Myaboku, the home of the Snake Clan. You'll be staying here for the next month," Shakudo explained, understanding that Naruko was new to this environment and unfamiliar with its customs. As they navigated the vast, mountainous terrain, Shakudo pointed out various regions within the Snake Kingdom, detailing their unique specialties. "For now, our priority is meeting the leader of the clan, my father. He's eager to meet the newest member of our family," she added. Naruko simply nodded, her thoughts swirling. She wasn't sure what to expect, but one thing was certain: she was feeling incredibly nervous. "Father. I need you to train me properly. I don't want to just study interrogation techniques, I want to be a frontline fighter," she called out from her room while adjusting the final details of her outfit. She wore a stylish, dark purple athletic set, yoga pants and a matching crop top with lilac accents. Look good, feel good, perform well had always been her motto, and it had served her well so far. But in reality, she didn't have much of a choice. She was preparing to face the eldest of the Kazekage's children in battle, and if she managed to win, she would have to take on the youngest. The odds were not in her favor. She couldn't rely on surprise tactics like before, and she highly doubted Temari would simply stand still and allow her jutsu to land. If she wanted to have a real chance of success, let alone victory, she needed to improve her fighting skills significantly. "All right, Princess, I'll meet you in the backyard in a moment," her father responded. Descending the stairs, Naruko quickly tidied up the remaining breakfast dishes before stepping outside. "All right, let's begin. We don't have much time, so we'll need to take some shortcuts," her father stated. Naruko didn't mind the idea of shortcuts, so long as they worked. "The first step is mastering water walking," he explained, tossing her 2 kunai. She caught them with a slight grimace, realizing she had only just learned about this technique in theory but had never actually tried it. "Looks like I'll have to learn fast." After being shown to a luxurious bed, far more elegant than anything she had ever slept in, Naruko couldn't help but appreciate the refinement of the Snake Clan. Everything about their lifestyle exuded sophistication. For the first time, she experienced the comfort of a properly made bed, complete with a soft duvet and a plush mattress. She almost didn't want to get up, but the anticipation of her first day of training was enough to pull her out of bed. Before officially beginning, however, there was an important step: signing the contract in blood. As she carefully examined the scroll, she realized she would be only the 8th person to sign it. They don't allow just anyone to do this. The realization filled her with pride. She had been chosen. "Before your training can begin, you need to visit Nagini in the inner sanctum of the Hebi clan for a medical evaluation," Manda instructed. Although Naruko was eager to start, she understood that following protocol was important. With that in mind, she set off toward the sanctum, prepared to undergo the examination, an essential step in her journey. In front of Manda, the trio listed all the advantages, primarily highlighting Naruko's enhanced immune system due to the Kyuubi's chakra flowing through her, as well as her overall improved physical capabilities. However, what caught Naruko's attention the most was when Nagini began discussing ways to refine her abilities as a shinobi and maximize her potential. For Naruko Uzumaki, having all of her ninja skills analyzed so openly made her a bit anxious. She wasn't entirely sure if she was skilled enough to be considered a true member of the clan. With her wind affinity, Naruko has the potential to become an exceptional swordswoman. A single-bladed chokudo, designed with a cylindrical grip, would enhance her natural agility, allowing for fluid and precise attacks. Removing the guard would further reduce the weapon's weight, enabling her to move even faster in battle, Nagini explained. I can see Naruko developing into a shinobi who prioritizes speed over brute force. Her elemental affinity provides a strong foundation for her future in Kenjutsu, as well as in mastering our unique snake-style techniques. As the head of the White Snake branch and Manda's trusted advisor, Nagini was ensuring that Naruko would have everything she needed to excel in her training. Judging by the wealth of information stored in her nervous system regarding muscle memory, it was evident that the only taijutsu style Naruko had mastered was the Academy standard style. Recognizing the uncertainty on her face, Nagini decided to reassure her. There's no need to worry, Naruko-kun, the elder snake spoke in a warm and encouraging tone. The Academy style is a foundational taijutsu form, designed for students who have yet to specialize in an advanced discipline. It serves as a stepping stone, allowing practitioners to transition into more refined styles with greater ease. Given this, you should be able to grasp our Kenjutsu techniques rather quickly. Despite her recent progress, Naruko still needed to build more strength, as she was slightly underweight for her age. There was no doubt that hosting the fox spirit within her required a significantly higher intake of nutrients to sustain her energy levels. A short while later, as Manda meticulously recorded the finer details of Naruko's training regimen, he turned to Nagini with a request. Take Naruko to the Rattlesnake branch and begin the initiation process. She must formally be recognized as a member of the Snake Clan. Following her leader's instruction, Nagini guided the blonde-haired girl towards the residence of the clan king's daughter. This was where Naruko would undergo the official induction into the Snake Clan. The process involved a ceremonial tattoo placed on the inside of her right arm. The marking would be infused with her own blood, chakra, and the chakra of the Princess of all Snakes, creating an unbreakable bond between Naruko and the clan. Her chakra control is outstanding. I had to work so hard for the level of control that she seems to have naturally, Inoiki remarked through a mental link to his wife. The pride in his voice was unmistakable. During a brief 10-minute sparring session, Naruko had already begun to grasp the technique of walking on water. It only took her 5 steps to stabilize herself before she lost balance and plunged into the water. Anticipating this, Inoiki reacted swiftly, moving at a speed slightly above that of an average chunin. Before she could fully regain control, he lightly tapped her stomach, demonstrating that she still had room to improve. Naruko surfaced, coughing up some water, her hands pressing against the lake's surface. Her wet hair clung to her face, and with frustration, she flicked it back, pushing forward with renewed determination. Adjusting his speed to match her capabilities, Inoiki launched another series of attacks. This time, she managed to evade 2 of them before stumbling and falling into the water once more. Ugh! She cried out in frustration. Normally, things come so easily to me. Is this what everyone else has to go through every single day? If this was the kind of dedication that shinobi like Gaara, Neji, and others exhibited, then she was determined to match their efforts. As her father continued his attacks, Naruko gradually improved, dodging 4 times in a row before finally managing to stay on her feet. Though she staggered slightly, she remained upright. A confident smirk spread across her face as she locked eyes with her father, silently conveying her resolve. You're doing great, sweetheart. Keep it up. Inoiki called out proudly. Maybe my daughter is going to perform exceptionally well in the exams after all. The first day of training had come to an end, and Naruko reflected on how she had given her best effort. She was sure that, with time, wielding a wooden sword would feel more natural. For now, mastering basic movements with the blade was her primary focus. She had been told that once she incorporated her wind element, she would become incredibly proficient in swordplay. Besides, who wouldn't be excited about wielding an impressive sword? As the second day neared its end, Naruko made her way to where Shakudo was waiting. There was just one final step left to officially become a member of the Snake Clan, receiving a tattoo. She had two options. The first was a simple, traditional tattoo, similar to the one Orochimaru had received. It was palm-sized and would be placed on the inside of her forearm. Alternatively, she had the freedom to choose any design she wanted, with the summoning seal discreetly woven into the artwork. Being young and unfamiliar with societal norms surrounding body modifications, Naruko didn't think twice about getting a tattoo. In many progressive regions of the elemental nations, tattoos were considered a form of self-expression. However, in Konoha and the Greater Fire Country, they were still often associated with certain factions or groups. Regardless of perception, this tattoo was more than just a marking, it was a symbol of her bond with the Snake Clan, signifying her official acceptance among them. Naruko had no idea. She didn't realize that the older generation would have opinions about her getting tattoos. Not that it was any different from the judgment she had faced before. But all that was running through her mind was, "This is amazing." Now, Naruko, have you thought about what design you'd like? A tattoo is a lifelong commitment, Shakudo advised, watching the newest summoner nod eagerly. She was proud to display her connection to the Snake Clan. After careful thought, the Uzumaki made her decision, a coiling cobra that wrapped around her entire arm. The snake appeared to slither through a landscape of intertwining vines, giving it a natural and dynamic look. As the design extended up to her shoulder, the cobra's head emerged, positioned over her upper arm and chest, its fangs exposed with venom dripping menacingly. Naruko was incredibly proud of her choice. Shakudo planned to use black, silver, white, purple, red, and green to bring the intricate design to life. Seeing Naruko's creativity, Shakudo commented, "You know, ninjas are encouraged to have hobbies outside of battle to maintain a balanced mind. Have you ever considered pursuing art like this?" The thought stuck with Naruko as she settled in for the long 8-hour tattooing session. Emerging victorious from the preliminary rounds of the Chunin exams, Hinata felt a newfound sense of confidence. Winning without relying on borrowed courage from her longtime admiration of Naruko had done wonders for her self-esteem. For the first time, the shy heiress of the prestigious Hyuga clan realized she didn't need to depend on anyone else to succeed. She was capable. She could strive for greatness just like Naruko. But, am I truly in love with Naruko? This question had lingered in Hinata's mind ever since the conclusion of her second-round battle. With the fight behind her, she finally had time to reflect on everything she had observed over the past week. The biggest realization was that Naruko had changed. She wasn't the same person Hinata had admired for so long. The boundless energy and unwavering enthusiasm that once defined her had dulled. During her match, Naruko hadn't needed to push herself, she had won, but something felt different. Am I clinging to the Naruko I used to know? The one who wore her heart on her sleeve, proclaiming to the world that she would become Hokage? The one who faced every challenge with unwavering confidence, the confidence I long to have myself? Do I truly want to be with Naruko, or do I simply wish to have the same self-assurance she carries? Hinata didn't have an answer. But as she continued her rigorous training, the thought remained in the back of her mind, growing more persistent with each passing day. Her father's reaction to her progress only reinforced these doubts. When she returned home, proud of her accomplishments, she had hoped for his approval. Instead, he dismissed her victory as luck. His lack of faith in her was crushing. For days, she struggled with the weight of disappointment. She had long sought her father's validation, especially in the absence of her mother, who had passed away years ago. But no matter how hard she worked, it never seemed to be enough. Maybe I'll never be good enough for him or the clan. They expect me to be quiet and submissive. But I don't have to carry the burdens of others out of guilt. I don't have to accept my father's indifference. When she thought of Neji, she knew he shared the same rigid expectations of her. But she no longer wanted to conform to them. Why is it that the only people I've ever truly felt cared for by were my mother and Kurenai-sensei? Shaking off her thoughts, Hinata finished her meal and returned to training with Kurenai. She had a technique in mind, one that could rival the Kaiten. Confidence had never been higher for Ino. A week had passed since she began training under her father, and she had learned something crucial. It wasn't just about skill, but about belief in herself. In the past, her confidence was mostly for show. She talked big but lacked the strength to back it up. Now, that was changing. On the first day, she trained to maintain her balance on water. By the second day, she could move swiftly without falling in, even as her father intensified his attacks. With newfound determination, she devoured book after book on psychology, studying everything from behavioral theories to cognitive development. Her father had always known she was intelligent, much like Shikamaru, but she had never truly applied herself before. Now, that had changed. Her speed had improved significantly, not just from building strength, but from refining her chakra control. Like Sakura, she had excellent chakra manipulation, allowing her to move faster and more efficiently. But what she was most proud of was her shifting mindset. She was no longer obsessing over achieving a so-called perfect physique by restricting her diet. Instead, she had begun viewing food as fuel, something to nourish her body for the demanding training ahead. With more energy, she could train longer and push herself further than ever before. The intense training sessions Asuma put her through were no longer overwhelming. She could handle them. Now, she was training with greater intensity, with more purpose. And for the first time, she felt unstoppable. Reading academic textbooks one after another had surprisingly helped Ino sharpen her focus. It also boosted her confidence, though she had never really lacked it. As she made her way to Training Ground 7, she spotted Naruko already there, carefully examining a few leaves in her hands. "Hey, Blondie," Ino called out as she approached. The blonde-haired girl looked up at her with a dry expression. "You're blonde too," Naruko pointed out. "Yeah, but I'm a platinum blonde." "You're more of a vibrant blonde," Ino replied matter-of-factly. Naruko didn't quite get the distinction, but she figured it wasn't worth arguing over. "Girls. So, how's your training going, Ino?" Naruko asked. Truthfully, she wasn't sure if she really wanted to be here. Ino could be loud and bossy, but at least she wasn't Sakura. And with Karen having returned to her village, it was refreshing to have someone else to talk to. Even if this wasn't a date, it was still nice to be invited somewhere for a change. That, and more importantly, Naruko had never been the best at conversations beyond ramen and jutsu. "It's going great. I've been training really hard," Ino said with a confident smirk. "No one will see me coming. I've been focusing on my chakra control and reserves." "That's pretty vague. Isn't everyone training their chakra control and reserves?" Naruko questioned, raising an eyebrow. Ino simply giggled, stepping forward slightly. Then, in an instant, Naruko felt something unexpected. A kiss. Her face turned bright red as she processed the sensation. It was different from any other kiss she had experienced. Just as the realization set in, the moment vanished. The connection was severed, and the world seemed to shift. Wait. Was that a genjutsu? Naruko's eyes widened as she pieced it together. In a single motion, with just one hand seal, Ino had cast an illusion so seamlessly that Naruko hadn't even noticed. The thought sent a chill down her spine. Wow! She's going to be seriously formidable. "You okay there, Naruko?" Ino asked, flashing a mischievous grin. She was inwardly thrilled. Her training had paid off. Not only had she learned a new skill, but she had also caught Naruko completely off guard. More importantly, Naruko now looked at her differently. There was something new in her expression, respect. Ino's heart soared. She had always wanted to be recognized for her ninja abilities, but genuine praise had been rare. Naruko didn't even have to say anything. That moment alone proved how capable Ino had become. With one simple illusion, she had shown that she could have easily defeated Naruko if she had wanted to. "Well, now that we've cleared that up, how's your training going, Naruko?" Why does she do that? No matter how much Naruko tried to focus, the memory of that genjutsu lingered in her mind. Every time she wasn't training, she found herself thinking about it. It was the perfect distraction, better than dwelling on questions like why she had the 9 tails sealed inside her, who her parents were, or what would happen to Team 7 after the exams. Shaking off the thoughts, Naruko turned her attention back to training. Holding her blade in hand, she channeled chakra through it, watching as a sharp sheen reflected off the surface. The nature transformation training is paying off, she thought proudly, successfully slicing through a leaf. Now, she was working on cutting more varied objects, refining her control over the technique. Setting the blade down, Naruko shifted to another crucial aspect of her training, hand seals. It wasn't the most exciting exercise, but she knew how important it was. Every time she had faced strong opponents, like Manda or Shakudo, she had struggled with executing her jutsu quickly enough. Speed mattered? What was the point of knowing powerful techniques if she couldn't use them in time? She had even heard rumors of shinobi mastering one-handed seals, something that could allow her to wield her sword while casting jutsu simultaneously. One of the first techniques she had learned was hidden shadow snake hands, which summoned snakes from her sleeve to strike at an opponent in a direct attack. But she wanted something more advanced. That led her to summoning jutsu, Fang Pursuit. Unlike the basic summoning technique, this jutsu allowed summoned snakes to track their targets, emerging from the ground in a surprise attack. Their natural venom could immobilize an enemy, giving Naruko the upper hand in battle. Still, she knew she needed more than precision, she needed raw power as well. That was where wind release, pressure came in. By compressing wind chakra to an extreme degree, she could launch it at an opponent, releasing a devastating force upon impact. Naruko exhaled, determination burning in her eyes. She still had a long way to go, but step by step, she was getting stronger. Tanto in hand, Ino swiftly advanced, aiming to land a precise strike on her father. Their training session took place atop the water's surface, refining her chakra control, honing her techniques, and working on increasing her speed during attacks. When she wasn't focusing on combat skills, she was conditioning her body, building the necessary strength to support her future as a ninja. And once her physical training was complete, she would sit at the water's edge, fully immersed in practicing her jutsu, determined to master the art of performing ninjutsu with just one hand. Observing from a distance, Inoki couldn't help but feel a swell of pride. His daughter had made incredible progress in such a short span of time. 2 weeks into their training regimen, he had initially harbored doubts about her readiness for the final round of the Chunin exams. While undeniably intelligent, she had previously lacked the drive and experience to compete at such a high level. Yet, watching her now, he saw a completely transformed young Kunoichi. She was training diligently for 6 hours a day, pushing her limits. More than anything, he hoped she would get the opportunity to showcase all the hard work she had put in. "Dad, I'm heading out," Ino called, snapping Inoki out of his thoughts. She quickly gathered her belongings, placing them neatly under the awning, before dashing off toward the training grounds, where Naruko was. As she left the Yamanaka compound, excitement bubbled within her. It had only taken one training session with Naruko to completely shift her perspective. Watching the way Naruko pushed herself, practicing her wind-style techniques and refining her swordsmanship, made Ino realize just how much effort she could put into her own training. The first time they had sparred with swords, Ino had been taken aback by the difference in skill. Despite starting at the same time, Naruko was noticeably faster, stronger, and more refined in her movements. How much time is she putting into her training? Even as Ino arrived at the training ground, she found Naruko once again running through her kata, her concentration unwavering. Oh wow! Naruko's really changed. And is that? Ino's eyes narrowed as she noticed something unusual. Is that a tattoo? Unable to contain her curiosity, she rushed forward. Naruko? Since when did you have a tattoo? Aren't you worried about how people might react? Unlike Naruko, Ino was well aware of how tattoos could influence public perception. They often carried deeper meanings and, in some cases, negative connotations. How's that any different from usual? Naruko responded with a casual shrug, momentarily catching Ino off guard. Nah, this isn't just any tattoo, it represents the new summoning contract I signed. She couldn't hide the excitement in her voice, even though she had originally planned to keep it a secret until the finals. Besides, it was nice spending time with Ino. Hopefully, she would understand. If not, well, that would tell Naruko how much she could trust her moving forward. What do you mean by new clan? I thought you were already part of the Uzumaki clan, Ino questioned, frowning slightly. Huh? What do you mean by that? Naruko's voice held an urgency she didn't bother to hide. Now that she thought about it, Karen had once mentioned having the same surname, but with everything happening during the Chunin exams, Naruko had never found the time to look into it. For as long as she could remember, whenever she asked the third Hokage about her family, he would always give the same answer, that they had passed away during the attack on the village and that there were no other relatives left. She would have given anything to learn more about her origins. Yeah, the Uzumaki were a real clan, Ino explained, unaware of the turmoil brewing within Naruko. They were kind of related to the Senju, I think. It was common knowledge, taught at the academy and something Ino had also studied as a clan heir. Immediately, Naruko created 3 shadow clones and sent them off with a single mission: gather every piece of information on the Uzumaki clan. I had no idea. Naruko muttered, frustration creeping into her tone. While she wasn't upset with Ino, a wave of emotion surged within her. Had she been intentionally kept in the dark? She pushed aside the unsettling thoughts and changed the subject. The reason I got the tattoo is because I signed a summoning contract with the Snake Clan. They've been helping me train while Kakashi has been busy working with Sasuke. At the mention of the Snake Clan, Ino hesitated. She knew all too well that the last person associated with them was none other than Orochimaru. Could Naruko really trust them? Was this safe? Noticing the uncertainty flicker across Ino's face, Naruko frowned slightly. What made you decide to sign with them? Ino asked cautiously. A small smile formed on Naruko's lips. She had expected a far stronger reaction. I wasn't satisfied with my training. It felt like I wasn't making any real progress. Then the snakes approached me, offering to help, on one condition. They want me to defeat Orochimaru because he's tarnished their reputation. Ino remained quiet for a moment, processing the information. While the idea still concerned her, she knew one thing for certain: Naruko had a strong sense of justice and wouldn't be easily swayed. And if anyone could handle such a challenge, it was her. They expect you to defeat Orochimaru? Ino exclaimed, her eyes wide with disbelief. The thought of Naruko, of all people, being tasked with taking down one of the legendary Sannin was almost unimaginable. Had she heard this 6 months ago, she would have dismissed it as absurd. However, after witnessing Naruko's incredible growth, she wasn't so sure anymore. Yeah, Naruko admitted, her expression serious. She had heard unsettling stories from Sakura about Orochimaru and had learned even more from the Snake Clan. The challenge ahead was monumental. The other reason I joined them is that they offered me a place to belong. Being an orphan, it's nice to finally feel like I have a family. Ino's heart instantly softened. Naruko had been through so much. That must be why she used to pull all those pranks when we were younger. Why she was always so loud in class. A look of understanding crossed Ino's face. She couldn't truly understand Naruko's struggles, but she could imagine how lonely it must have been. And does being part of the clan make you happy? She asked gently, offering a small smile. Naruko beamed, her eyes lighting up. It's been amazing, Dadabayo. She exclaimed before flushing in embarrassment at her verbal tic. She was trying to get rid of the habit, but excitement always brought it out. Ino couldn't help but smile. That's the Naruko I remember. I don't think I've ever seen her smile this brightly before. It's kind of contagious. They told me I could either get a regular tattoo with the seal inscribed on it or design my own, Naruko explained eagerly before lifting her shirt to reveal the full piece. Caught off guard, Ino felt her face heat up at the sudden display. A small blush crept across her cheeks as she instinctively covered her mouth with her hand to stifle a grin. But her initial surprise quickly turned to awe as she took in the intricate design. I've never seen anything like this, she murmured, mesmerized, Without thinking, she reached out, lightly tracing the details of the tattoo. The purple cobra tail coiled around Naruko's arm was beautifully detailed. As Ino's fingertips brushed over the design, Naruko shivered slightly, a quiet gasp escaping her lips. It took a moment for Ino to realize what she was doing. Her hand had drifted absent-mindedly over Naruko's shoulder, tracing along the patterns as if drawn in by their beauty. Wait a second, what am I doing? I'm literally touching Naruko's arm like I'm studying it or something. Her eyes widened, and she quickly pulled back, clearing her throat to cover her flustered state. Ahem. Anyway, you mentioned that you were an orphan before, Ino said, redirecting the conversation. Do you think that's why you played all those pranks when we were kids? To get people to notice you? Still feeling the lingering sensation of Ino's touch, Naruko was slightly dazed as she responded. Yeah. That, and with the QB sealed inside me, people always seemed to hate me. All I ever wanted was to be treated like the other kids at the academy. The second the words left her mouth, Naruko's eyes widened in shock. Oh no. I didn't mean to say that. What do you mean the QB is sealed inside you? Ino asked, her voice laced with surprise. She tried to process what she had just heard. What? I didn't say anything. Naruko replied hastily, rubbing the back of her head, clearly nervous. Ino frowned, watching her closely. The tension in Naruko's body was impossible to ignore. No, you definitely said something about the QB, she pressed gently. You can tell me anything, I promise. Naruko hesitated. The sheer panic radiating off her was unlike anything Ino had ever seen. This wasn't the Naruko she knew, the one who always exuded confidence no matter the situation. She didn't judge me for joining the Snake Clan, Naruko reasoned internally. And the past 2 weeks with Ino have been nice. If she turns away after hearing this, then I guess I haven't really lost anything. She tried to convince herself, but deep down, she was terrified. She had never told Sasuke or Sakura about this, not because she didn't trust them, but because she had never felt like it was safe to share. Taking a deep breath, Naruko finally spoke. You can't actually destroy a tailed beast, no matter what they taught us in the academy. The only way to stop one is to seal it away. She paused, watching as realization slowly dawned on Ino's face. Deciding to continue, she added, for some reason. The fourth Hokage chose to seal the QB inside me. She clenched her fists, staring at the ground. She hated feeling this vulnerable. The weight of this secret had been something she carried alone for so long, and now, standing before Ino, she felt exposed. For a brief moment, she feared what would come next. Would Ino look at her differently now? Would she turn away like so many others had? And yet, as the silence stretched between them, she dared to hope. So, you're like a giant storage scroll for the QB? Ino mused after a moment of thought. As she looked at Naruko, she realized she was seeing a completely different side of her, one that she was certain neither Sasuke nor Sakura had witnessed. Her intuition told her that Naruko hadn't shared this secret with anyone before. So that's why all the adults told us to stay away from her, Ino thought. Dad never told me to avoid Naruko, he just said she was a bit of a troublemaker. But looking back, she was just a kid trying to be part of the group, looking for friends and family. She didn't have anyone to guide her or teach her what was right or wrong. Naruko nodded. And all the adults know, but none of our classmates from the academy do, right? She asked, piecing everything together. Seeing Naruko nod again, Ino had only one question left. Why? When I talked to Gramps, he said it was because he wanted me to have a normal life, Naruko replied, though she didn't seem convinced by that explanation. That's ridiculous. Ino burst out, crossing her arms in frustration. As if you ever got to have a normal childhood. Hearing someone else validate her feelings reassured Naruko that she wasn't wrong for feeling this way. That's the Sandaime Hokage you're talking about, Ino, she responded dryly, a small smirk playing on her lips. Oops, Ino muttered, blushing for a moment before regaining her confidence. So what? I stand by what I said. It's not like I was wrong. He wanted you to have a normal life, but everyone just found ways to work around it. Naruko smiled, appreciating Ino's willingness to stand by her beliefs. Remembering the seriousness of the conversation, Ino glanced at Naruko. "And how do you feel about all of this?" Naruko hesitated. She didn't really know how to answer. Every time she tried to think about her childhood, her memories felt distant and blurry, like a part of her was trying to forget them. "I don't like it at all," she finally said, frustration evident in her voice. "I never asked for this. Why did they decide I should be the one to carry it? I didn't even have parents. Why didn't they choose someone who had a mom and dad to help them through it?" There was so much to unpack in that one statement, and Ino took a moment to gather her thoughts. "I don't know why they chose you," she admitted, "but you're right, it's unfair." A wave of guilt washed over her as she thought about how she and the others had treated Naruko when they were younger. She had never truly realized how difficult things had been for her. Even though they had only really become friends in the past 2 weeks, Ino felt compelled to make a promise. "I just want you to know that from now on, we're going to be friends forever." It wasn't just the words themselves, it was the way she said them, full of unwavering confidence. "Whatever you're going through, you can come to me and talk about it. I promise I won't tell anyone your secrets." "You really mean that?" Naruko asked, her voice hesitant, her lower lip almost quivering. "Yep. From now on, you're not going through this alone. You're going to have the amazing, talented, and beautiful Ino by your side, whether you like it or not." Ino grinned, her confidence shining through. Naruko couldn't help but smile back, absorbing the warmth of her friend's words. "You're not afraid?" Naruko asked, still unsure. Ino flicked her hair with a scoff. "Not at all," she lied, feeling a twinge of nervousness but refusing to let Naruko see it. It wasn't that she was scared, she just wanted to understand more before forming an opinion. "Thank you, Ino. I promise I'll always have your back. That's my ninja way." Seeing the determination in Naruko's eyes made Ino grin. Then, to her surprise, Naruko stepped forward and wrapped her arms around her in a tight hug. Ino felt her face heat up, she could definitely get used to this. After a moment, they pulled apart, and Ino, still flustered, softly suggested, "Let's go to Ichiraku's." Dear YouTube family, that's a wrap for now. I hope you enjoyed this content and found it engaging. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more exciting updates. Thank you for your support. Anime Dreams.